Everybody's, I think, lacking energy in the final days of COP16. I'm just watching everybody sort of come in. But we have got another session after this, so we can't wait much longer. I do know there are some guests that are just confirming their presence at other stands and then coming across to join us. So a very warm welcome to the restoration stage. And today we're going to be discussing and presenting and highlighting the benefits and the role of bio-saline agriculture. I actually had to look it up. I could guess saline, but I'm thinking, how on earth do you farm, do you crop, do you plant anything in saline conditions? I found out that it is very much possible, and it does make sense, doesn't it? You look at any coastal region, and you do have saline-tolerant plants in those regions. So why does it matter? Well, land degradation, as we've heard time and time again, does pose a threat. It also poses so many challenges globally, not just locally, within these environments, these communities that are affected by it. So it's very innovative. It's a very innovative approach. It uses basically, as I said, salt-tolerant plants, and it allows you to cultivate the land in high salinity. So this session is all about highlighting some truly pioneering strategies. Also, we have some global collaborations and why gender matters within these communities. This is highly important. And I'm just looking at a lady here really nodding her head. Can I just ask why you're nodding your head? Why does this matter to you? I wonder if you could just get there's a microphone coming to you, madam.
Yes.
Why does highly saline conditions, why are you nodding your head so much? And gender?
I'm interested in gender because I'm following gender in the climate change issues, and I'm really know that there is many things concerned with this issue because I'm passing that gender. Okay, it is good. Gender and agriculture. I'm a forester, and all this is very interesting for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the Restoration Pavilion. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so we're going to showcase bio-saline agriculture. We're going to highlight the linkages between sustainable land management and gender equity, and we're going to present those collaborations, as I said, and hopefully also lots and lots of case studies, and we'll get a bit of dialogue going as well. So we've got a number of speakers who are going to present all of that to us, and I'd like to introduce our first speaker, please. And this is Dr. Chabal Tara, he is Chief Operations and Development Manager from the International Center for Bio-Saline Agriculture, and he is a leader in advancing bio-saline agriculture to combat land degradation within those arid regions. With over 2 decades of experience, he's joining us today to share his work that is focused on sustainable practices that empower particularly vulnerable farming communities. And I think one thing to note is that his contributions have been integral when it comes to cutting-edge research with practical applications globally. Dr. Tara, welcome, and the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Should I sit or should we? Yeah. Okay.
So are you going to, I wonder if you could just give us an introduction to what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, good morning, first of all, and thank you very much for this. This is a very big introduction for me. I mean, I'm not a leader in these things. I'm just like a poor worker, at least, to provide some solutions. I mean, so when it comes to aridity and salinity. Before talking about all this, I mean, let me say a few things about ICBA, the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture. So As a matter of fact, when I talk to people and they ask me, what do you do? I said, I mean, I am in an international center for biosaline agriculture. Where is this located? In Dubai. And then people would look at me, I mean, agriculture, Dubai? What are you talking about? Yes, it is in Dubai. And as mentioned, I mean, we try to find solutions. Definitely, I mean, when talking about land, soil, I mean, we can hardly find soil in those areas. It's more of sand and all those kind of things. So the International Center for Bioceline Agriculture. So we are, as a matter of fact, celebrating next week our 25th anniversary. So we've been working on basically crops, soil, water, and sort of integrated systems. I mean, integrated agri-aquaculture system, for example. I'll talk a little bit about that. So the center is funded by the United Arab Emirates and by the Islamic Development Bank to advance and enhance, I mean, agriculture in areas, I mean, that are suffering from basically salinity. And also, I mean, so our research work or is work for development. So this is the bottom line. So when I talk about crops, for example, so definitely, I mean, as mentioned, I mean, there are crops that are resilient to salinity. So we try to enhance as much as we can. I mean, those crops, name it, quinoa, all kinds of millets, barley, others, you know. So those are the work of our scientists, breeders, and geneticists. I mean, is to focus on those kinds of crops as well as definitely there is a focus on halophytic crops, the crops that really love salt. They live in salt, and we try to look into the whole value chain there. We don't just simply, let's say, if I name a halophytic crop which we worked on a lot, which is siliconia. Definitely siliconia, I mean, is not like a major crop, but I mean, you can use it in integrated systems, I mean, where you can basically produce proteins and then like integrated agri aquaculture system. It's not the time to talk about all these things. So this is where, for example, regarding the crops, when it comes to soil, again, the soil. So we have, as I said, I mean, especially in our part of the world, there a lot of amendments. The soil health is an important aspect of what we do. We look into amendments, whether organic or inorganic, whether we work a lot on biochar. Okay, and we found really, I mean, we've introduced that also, not only in we piloted here in it's not here, we piloted in Dubai, and then we worked in other areas where we work, because we work in like 40 plus countries. So when we talk about water, also using the most efficient systems, first of all, because again, water is scarce, especially when it comes to fresh water. So what is the systems that we can use, I mean, in order to save water and use water more efficiently? So those are, in a nutshell, I mean, some of the works that we do at Iqbal. Definitely, I mean, just one second, just all of this, I mean, are coupled with a very robust capacity development, I mean, program that we have. Okay, because producing science and working, I mean, in the field, I mean, without really transferring that knowledge to the farmer at the end of the day, or to the scientist in certain areas. Okay, definitely our work will be in a drawer somewhere or in a journal somewhere, read by few scientists here and there.
Dr. Tarek, thank you very much indeed. If you're wondering, ICBA, it's not spelled with a K, it's ICBA.
Yeah.
So if you want to look them up online, it's the ICBA ICBA, not ICKAR,
Yeah,
ICBA.
yeah.
Okay, so there you have an introduction in terms of some of the technologies that are used in biosaline agriculture. So why does the gender aspect matter, particularly to UNCCD? Let's hear from Dr. Murali Tumarakudi, who is the director of the G20 Global Initiative on Land, and so much experience he's brought, particularly from his experience in land restoration and global policy making. Dr. Murali, the floor is yours. Why does gender matter, particularly when it comes to the UNCCD's work? So our speakers are going to give a brief 2 to 5 minute introduction, and then we will have a panel discussion and cover all your questions.
Thank you, Lucosa. Very delighted to meet you again. I must start by how we started associating with the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture. In my previous life, when I was working with Shell in Oman, we had a situation where while we were producing oil, a significant amount of water was being co-produced with it. Most people who are not familiar with the oil industry don't know this. That when you produce 1 barrel of oil, you may produce up to 10 barrels of water. And this was in the middle of the desert in Oman. And you had a lot of water, which is a place which has big time shortage of water. This water is saline. It has a little bit of oil when it's removed, but it's very saline. Most of the time, we re-inject it back into the ground, which is both expensive and in a way wasteful because there is a lot of water in it. That's when we heard about the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture and thought maybe we can work together with them and see how we can use this productively. So in 1999, we started a project. I remember it started as a 1 square meter plot to grow reed beds. And then it has now gone to, if I recall, something like 250 hectares, the largest constructed wetland in the world, in Oman. So in 2022, when I took up the new job in UNCCD with land restoration as a mandate, I thought, why not work with IGBA, because they do have the capacity to deal with biosaline agriculture. Water shortage is a major issue. But if we can use salt water, saline water, then we can restore a lot of land. That's how the collaboration started. Now, many of you may have read the UNCCD report about women and land. Even though women make up more than 50% of the workforce in agriculture, less than 20% of the agriculture land is owned by women. So clearly they do not make the decisions regarding land. And if you want to deal with the land restoration, then you have to deal with women. That's for sure. And land degradation matters definitely and mostly to women because they are primarily engaged on land management. So both in agriculture, but also in other sectors such as mining, we are seeing that women is significantly involved, but they are also significantly affected. And this is the reason why we decided that whatever we do, whichever segment we do, we have to engage with women, but also take care of their interest. Thank you.
Dr. Murali, thank you very much indeed. Okay, so that's the connection with the UNCCD. Let's find out now what takes place within the Arab states. I mean, it's very obvious, isn't it? You know all the time about the water, the land reclamation projects. This really does matter. So to tell us a little bit more about that work, please welcome Dr. Mahmoud Fatala, who is the Director of Environment and Meteorology Affairs for the General Secretariat of the League of Arab States, and he is a regional expert on environmental policy and sustainable development. Dr. Mahmoud, welcome, and the stage is yours. If you could just grab a microphone, and you have about 3 or 4 minutes to summarize your work. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Actually, as you know, our countries has a very critical situation in this regard when water scarcity and arid and semi-arid areas. We are working as a technical secretariat for the Arab Council for Ministers of Environment. The main work is to coordinate regional coordination in tackling this issue, and also for maintaining cooperation between Arab countries and international cooperations. We have different cooperation with G20, with UNCCD, with ECBA, with different institute, and also um, academia and such different areas of coordination with. Um, we have our technical arm in this regard, specialized organizations in agricultural development and arid areas in Arab countries. All those organizations are uh, uh, coordinated by the League of Arab States as a main entity for the region. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much indeed. Now, I'm going to invite a lady onto the stage who is using biotech. We heard about one technology, and that was biochar. Dr. Taraf mentioned that. But this lady is using lab tech bio products to enhance the general health of soil and plant-specific plants. So Julie Mensah is the representative for Nunatech Biotech and Nunatech Biotech, and truly promoting sustainable agricultural practices, like I said, through biotechnology. Julie, a brief summary of your work, better than I just did it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. So, Nunatech Biotech develops biological products. We isolate extremophiles, microorganisms that are resilient in extreme environments, and we use them to combine and to do plant microbiome symbiosis. So we use these microorganisms to put on the leaf or maybe on the seeds in order to promote better crop resilience, for example, for some stress. In our strain bank, we have some of our bacteria we are seeing that are very tolerant to salinity, and we are doing like different experiments in the lab, in our greenhouses, and in the following month on field also in terms to see in order to complement not also a crop tolerant to biosalinity, but also how we can use biostimulants or other type of microbial products that can help and enhance this process. It's like it can complement. Actually, we have the opportunity, and thank you for G20 Global Initiative and ECO program, we have the opportunity to go to ICBA, and it was a great experience in order to see how different technologies can complement to solve this important problem.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Julia. Our final guest. I mean, okay, just take one moment and look at the image that you have there on the screen. It is often the women in the fields, and we're not talking obviously about large-scale farming a lot of the time. It comes together in small packages for one beautiful planet. That is what we're trying to do. It's often the women working on small holding plots that this work begins. So the lady you're about to hear from next is doing exactly that. She is close to images like that, and she empowers women, particularly in marginalized communities, with smallholder plots to improve their yield, their soil health, and ultimately the wider community. So please welcome Tomtoza Uganja, who is the founder of Sustainable Farming solutions. Santosa, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And of course, thank you to the G20 and the YECO program for the opportunity to be here. Most of the times, the marginalized women, we're talking about the marginalized communities, especially in smallholder farming communities, women lack access to basic resources like even the right to own land, the right to access to extension services so that they can better serve their communities and their families. And yet they feed all of this community. They are there to provide food, they are there to nurture our nature, and of course, to provide the backbone that surrounds us all as a community. Now, at Sustainable Farming Solutions, we are very intentional about empowering rural women farmers as resilient.
Is that done?
Yeah, it's back. It's back. Yeah. I'll go back to that point. Resilient, climate smart, and very, very intentional restorative leaders. Now, if we believe that we cannot hold back half of the world population, like half of who we are. And if we do that, then we're not doing our land justice and not our planet, because we do not have a planet B. So knowing all of this, we are very intentional in empowering these women so that we can better save our planet. And how do we do that? We make sure that they have access to the right extension services, not just one size fits all solutions, but customized, even in the smallest even in the smallest, right? Because you see, we have to be intentional about making sure that all these identities are recognized and given the power to grow and excel.
Thank you very much. So those are our speakers, our panel of experts. They are here to share their knowledge. If something has gone wrong, we all learn from failures. You cannot succeed without failing. They may well have gone down that path and be able to say, this is the way to do it. So please use their knowledge whilst they're here. It's very rare to have access to people like this. So first off, I'm going to open the floor to questions. Any questions, please? Any comments before we start our panel discussion? Yes, just get the microphone is coming your way. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you. My name is Pravina. I come from Safe Soil. Thanks a lot for all of you who are sitting here. Like with very specific to biosalient agriculture, I think like what Murli said about 80% of the women being the workforce, especially small and marginal farmers, is well acknowledged. I have a technical question though. So I see that like I'm looking at all the countries in the region, the Gulf region, the rainfall is 75 mm in Bahrain, whereas evapotranspiration is 1800 mm. In Saudi, it's 100 mm, whereas evapotranspiration is 4500. That means 10 times or 20 times more is going out. So you really need green cover to kind of bring the water in here rather than go drop it in the ocean, right? So like how do and kind of if water begins to come, green cover begins to come, suddenly the solution of salinity will begin to get addressed. So what are the solutions towards addressing the water problems? If you're doing the biosaline agriculture, does it also address the existing water scarcity? And also does it support in increasing the water retention in the lands, in the groundwater, generally the aquifers? Thank you.
So multi-dimensional
multi,
question there,
multi,
yes.
very, very multi. Again, as I started, basically talking about this region as an agricultural region is just simply an overrated kind of thing. Definitely there are certain crops that are that live in this region. They are part of the culture of this region when it comes, for example, to date palms. Okay, so this is something. Even for date palms, talking about date palms, for example, we have a long-term experiment at ICBA. Because again, other than the problems with date palm in terms of red palm weevil, but when it comes to water use, okay, so we have definitely developed a system where not we did not we worked on a system where we use a system where not over irrigation or under irrigation, so that we are more efficient, in terms when we water things. Now, I mentioned the integrated agri-aquaculture system. So in that system, because as Morelli was talking about, he talked about oil, but we don't have to forget also the desalination which is taking place. So this is where we are getting the water, So definitely there is a byproduct. So this is where a center like ICBA came into, how can we make use of this byproduct, of this brine, to grow maybe fish. Okay, so and then so by this integrated agri-aquaculture system that I was talking about, so you are desalinating, you are using fresh water maybe to irrigate cash crops, you use the brine to grow fish, okay, and then use that water, which is filled with effluents from the fish with high nutritious, to water, halophytic plants. Okay, so this is one of the things. But yes, you are right. So and that's why when it comes to planting season, definitely it's not like in areas when you have waterfall all the time. So you have a very limited, planting season, and then we have to live with that. Unless you go into protected agriculture, and this is another problem, with the consumption of energy and all these kind of things. So and then definitely maybe countries like the Gulf region, can afford this kind of protected agriculture system, but other countries definitely, and that's why we always. Sorry, I'm jumping from one topic to the other. We try to talk about best fit solution. So what fits here doesn't fit there for whatever reason.
Well, thank you very much. Any questions to follow up on that? I'm just going to come in very quickly before we move on. It's interesting that you mentioned byproducts, because obviously in that process you don't want to lose anything. So the water byproduct that you use to farm the fish, for example, I presume the ammonia content will be quite high in that water. I mean, what's done to reduce that? Because that in itself could have knock-on impacts if you've got too high.
Definitely. So when I'm talking about the system, so this is not the time to talk about the system, and I'm not the expert also of the system. But when we are talking about those this water where the fish are living, so it goes into a filtration process as well. You definitely, so you cannot dump everything into. So there is a filtration system there where it will clear it, sort of speak, and then use it to irrigate the halophytic plant.
I suppose whatever's filtered can also be used
Yeah, yeah,
as a byproduct itself.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Thank you very much indeed. Any questions? As you're talking, if you just put your hand up rather than me turning, that would be great. Okay, I'm going to come to Dr. Mahmoud Patella. Could you talk us through some of the regional collaborations? Because obviously when we're talking about something as big and as impactful as meteorology, I mean, you are watching those weather patterns, the trends. What sort of collaborations have you got in place, or do you think could be beneficial, for example, to the Arab states, to watching the trends when it comes to those arid zones? Could you just talk us through some that are in place and some that you think would help?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, we have a meteorological system for watching uh, the any impact of meteorology on the agriculture sector. So we have seasonal forecast this. For meteorology, and according to this seasonal forecast, we have a plan for and to disseminate this forecast for agriculture and to media and to ensure that there is a counter impact for any seasonal aspects related to this regard. Also, there is a program for capacity building for people's working in agriculture to how to be benefited from smart agriculture and to use all available ideas or any science-based suggestion for this. So.
Thank you very much for that. Julia, I'm going to, yes, with a question here.
Thank you very much. I would be interested to learn more about the different European institutions. I think what Katrina was very clear on how women's empowerment is being done through the business itself as one of the business models. So how do you streamline like now the knowledge of intervention and like also the challenges? And to what extent, especially the gold regions, are you including women to access to this knowledge or this technologies you implementation across these challenges?
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll have Dr. Chabal, we'll have Julia. Yeah, we can have 3 contributions there, possibly. Can I start with Julia, actually? Is there anything you'd like to pick up on that as a response? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I can share like from an entrepreneur perspective. In our case, well, Milena, you were asking like in terms more like policies or like in la global, like just to understand the point.
In the implementations, so obviously there's scenarios on the ground.
Okay.
How women now be included actually
Okay.
access to information. So not necessarily related to your business as such. But
Okay. Okay. So well, I can. As
Shall
you
I
want.
pass it on? Shall I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just like, I mean, as a center, just like what we do, as I mentioned in my introduction, the center, one of the core functions of the center is capacity building. Okay, so and definitely gender equity. I mean, whenever in every capacity development, because we have our capacity development activities, they come in different shapes and forms depending on whether we are dealing with farmers, whether we are dealing with scientists, whether we are dealing with extension specialists. I mean, depending. Or students. So we have internship programs. So when it comes, even talking about this, so we have specific programs like in the center for women. Like we have the Arab women leaders in agriculture. This is a program. It's like 9-month program where it consists of different modules, whether it has to do with leadership as in general or talking about the different innovations in agriculture and different topics in agriculture. So this program is focused only on women in the Arab world. So definitely there is a process, applications and stuff like that. And we are trying to sort of mimic and copy that program to have one for Africa and one for Central Asia, because as a center we also work in Central Asia. Okay, so we have a satellite office in Tashkent in Uzbekistan, and also lately, I mean, during COP28, we launched an initiative of the center, which is Waka, not Waka, the Shakira Waka, but I mean, Waka, Women Alliance for Climate Change in Agriculture. Okay, so this is basically to connect women from the different parts of the world, to focus on climate change and agriculture. So this is at least this is small center. This is what we are trying to do in our capacity.
Dr. Shabal, thank you very much indeed. I will come back to you, Julia. Obviously, you're very much on the biotech side, but I presume you are monitoring sort of some of the women-led initiatives that are benefiting from your tech, your biotech. Are there any that you can just highlight and share with us, please?
Yeah, and also connecting when you mentioned what the doctor was mentioned, like I have the opportunity to actually the director of the IGBA is a woman, Dr. Tarifa, and this WACA initiative, it's great. Like they are also sharing different successful stories. And also, for example, I have the possibility to have one of the classes of the Dr. Henda, a plant physiologist. Sorry of my English. So I think that uh, in terms of the leaders or success also histories, in my case, I connect business, science, and technology related to agriculture. I lead a company which name is Nunatak, and we develop microbial solutions. And for example, in our case, what we promote and also what we see is how important is scientists, women are involved in agriculture. So for example, the COO of Nunatak is a woman. She's a specialist in mycology. Some of the fungi and bacteria could be, for example, potential also help the crop to tolerate. And in our case, in Argentina, our business model is B2B. We sell to companies, then the companies sell to farmers. But I'm from Argentina. In Argentina, there are many women related to agriculture. Not many in biosalinity, because it's a topic that maybe it's new, and I think that one of the initiatives that it's great is to invest more in science, in technology related to this topic, because we are just in the beginning to write about the history, about how we are going to address this huge problem. And yeah, I mean that there are a lot of solutions that have to come. And if we incorporate more engineers, more scientists, and even more technology on field to also help women to be maybe at home, but also on the field, I think that can help too.
Thank you very much. I don't know if we've actually mentioned this, but in terms of biosaline regions, do we have a statistic in terms of the scale of the agricultural land that is impacted by saline conditions? Are there any statistics?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't have the number, but definitely, and the number is increasing. I mean, this is the problem, I mean. So when the center started, the focus was on basically on the Gulf region and the Islamic countries, I mean. But now, okay, we see like there are many areas in the world, I mean, that is affected by this salinity. I don't have the number in my head, but definitely the number is much increasing.
Okay, thank you. So generally the trend is upwards in terms of saline conditions. We have a question.
I just want to add, like, we got the most recent FAO report launched yesterday on salinity and solidity. 40 to 50% of the lands of all the agriculture lands in the world are affected by salinity. So I would like to hear from you, ma'am. How do women, get affected in these areas, and what is the percentage of agriculture lands that usually are affected in your country with salinity, and how are you going about, have there been traditional ways of going about it? Like he mentioned something very specific. Traditionally there are certain crops that grow in the region that can be continued to be promoted. Are there other crops coming in? So in overall, in the economics of from the seed to the table, what's the role of women? Like you spoke about biotechnology, well, with respect to just food as a consumption without any other intervention, what's the role women play?
Thank you so much for that question. I was just literally stewing at the moment, thinking about the fact that we are talking about roles here. I'll give you a failed case study in our case. When we started off at Sustainable Farming Solutions, we wanted to utilize local seeds for that landscape because as scientists we believe that species site matching is important, and that goes to the soil, the type of soil that is within that particular landscape. So what we did is we told the community. Of course, we involved local leaders and they collected seed, and we started establishing the nursery. And because usually, depending on cultural circumstances, men usually stand up, they want to lead the initiatives. So they led the initiative, and we set off the nursery and they planted the seeds. We were like, oh, yes, the nurseries are coming out. Let me tell you. Because we count, we are scientists, so we look at the number of days it takes for the seed to germinate. Nothing came up, and then we started trying to find out what happened. How come these seeds are not coming up? Guess what? The women were chuckling by the side. They were like, "Oh, they went to collect the seed." But do you know what we do when we collect the seed? We use we call them. We sieve the seed, and then we literally soak them. We know that all the ones that float up, we know that they are useless, they don't germinate. I want you to understand this: attention to detail. The role women play is different from the role men play. So sometimes women can be specific about certain details. They know because they have been doing it. They collect seed for their kids. They can be nuts in the forest. They can even be herbs for them to help an ailing child get better. So the fact is, we need men. They can be strong. They can hurry the process along. But at the end of the day, the other role can be the special attention to detail, making sure that both science, local knowledge, indigenous knowledge come together and make sure that all these activities we want to implement come along. Now, I want to go back to her question and say, okay, so what does this mean? Look, this is a knowledge product. How do we then get it along, use it, and share it across all these other areas so that it becomes a knowledge product that can be utilized to come up with an innovation that works for the better of land? And this is where we are as researchers, as scientists, collaborating and putting in place, making sure that that information is disseminated, because local people know how things grow in their condition and how they can work across all these different failures to come up with a working solution. And of course, when we tried again, boom, we got the seeds germinated.
Thank you very much for sharing that story. Yeah, I mean, seeds and seed germination there's a science to it, and often it's local knowledge. I mean, in the science, in the lab, it's either put it in the fridge to freeze it, or abrasive action to break the seal around the seed. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it's interesting that it was the women who were all aware of the process that needed to be done. Any more questions from the floor, please? Do we have any more questions? Okay, I'd like to come to yourself, Doctor. We mentioned earlier about the trends and reporting those trends. Does that information get passed on to the local communities? How do you transfer that information, that knowledge that you have to the communities that will be most impacted? And how does it change your policy? Because if you say that the trends are increasing towards, for example, more extreme weather patterns, it's impacting communities that lie directly beneath it or in its path. So what process, how do you get that information to them, and how does it then guide policy?
So actually, we have mechanism for communication between local communities and central communities community through different communities areas, and this communities engaged in with national committees to discuss all all aspects of their knowledge and their experience in agriculture sector. Actually in our region, women represent a major contributor in the labor of agriculture sector. We focus mainly on enhancing their participation and enhancing their knowledge share in this regard. Also, there is a council for women for to acknowledge their participation and engagement in different activities and provide them with the capacity building to enhance their ability to change or to have knowledge for how to deal with agriculture, especially in the arid areas.
Okay, I'm going to pick up on that point, and that will be our final question. I mean, there must be something in particular, the chemical structure, the physical structure of saline soils. I'm not sure, maybe you can advise me on that. But in terms of that, is there special training that needs to be understood in handling those soils? And from your perspectives, we've just heard from the doctor there, what sort of projects or initiatives do you have, or how do you prioritize building capacity and training the people? Or is it the other way around? Do the people on the ground train you? And the importance of it. And I'm going to come to Dr. Morini first, and then Julian, you can pick up Kuntoza, and then Dr. Atara. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I must admit that I'm not a technical expert on biocell and agriculture, but I want to give you some numbers and some approaches globally. So globally, there are about 4.8 billion hectares of land, and as Pravina just mentioned, 50% of that now has a salinity problem. We are talking about 2.4 billion hectares of land. Now, in biosaline agriculture, you can also create agriculture in land which is not agricultural land if salt water is available. So that's opposite approach you take. So that's what we did in Oman, where from the oil field, suddenly there was water in a land which was never agricultural land. So you could even have more land than the 2.4 billion hectares. We have 609 million farming families and about 1.2 billion people engaged in agriculture, of which probably about 80% are women. So we are talking about close to 1 billion women who, and if you take half of them need to be sensitized, we are talking about 500 million people to be trained, women alone. Now, one thing we know about farmers is that farmers learn best from their peers and not from experts. Farmers generally do not trust experts. Farmers would rather trust their neighbor than experts. So the key for the experts is to identify some pioneering people, some people who are willing to take a chance on their land by probably de-risking their situation, train them, and then that training get transferred into the peer group. So this is an approach which has worked through the entire green revolution for any other introduction of new crops, etc. I think that will be the technique which we'll have to use. So the primary technique will be experts to pioneers, and then from there to peer group. Thank you.
Dr. Morini, thank you very much. Julia?
So yeah, I agree. I will also add that in the middle, like now again, I think that it's a complex problem, biosalinity on soils, and I think that we have to keep building bridges between also the technical people and farmers and people on the ground, also conscious about about the consumers also, like also there is the table as you mentioned, also like we have different stakeholders, and I think that um, if we keep investing in science, technology, but also empowering people that maybe women on fields or people generally on fields to how to can even add more value or like make more business of their projects, they even can improve and also incorporate new technology in order to address new challenges. I think that we have to keep building capabilities on that field, and yeah, in terms of the, I think that also communication, it's very important. I think that it's great that a panel here, we are talking about this, because normally it's not very common to see, even in agriculture events, to talk about this issue. And for example, in Argentina, what happened is like maybe you have the land and you have like parts of the land that the salinity is concentrated, but they don't care. Like they don't we right now we don't have like policies or maybe products or crops that are resilient to that type of soils. So I think that we have to say, okay, if we have 50% of our lands with salinity, we have to build capabilities, teach about how we can address that problem. And I think that with science, business is the main bridge that to connect different dots.
Dr. Taraf, very quickly, multifaceted. I'll let you finish.
No,
I'll
no,
let you finish your
yeah, yeah, no,
It's all
no,
right.
no,
I can,
yeah.
I can pass
No,
it
no,
on.
no, this is fine.
I know how everybody's
Yeah.
juggling so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Multifaceted training approaches, particularly when it comes to empowering women. How much of a priority is training?
I
And
mean,
who trains who?
yeah, as I mentioned, I mean, like, I agree with what Morelli mentioned. I mean, sometimes we learn from our neighbors rather than from technical people. But I think what we do at ICBA, I mean, is just we like to connect all these things together. So, like when we talk about farm field school, I mean, so this is, I mean, we will create a model, I mean, this is not, I mean, FAO has done this, but I mean, we just copied that model, and then we use it. So you are having a group of farmers using those technologies, and then basically learning by seeing, and then comparing, so at the end of the day, so this is one of the aspects. Now when it comes to capacity development, as I mentioned, I mean, we at ICBA, we have different types of capacity development activities depending on the who is receiving this capacity. Is it a farmer? Is it a scientist? Is it a student? So is it a extension specialist? So all those kind of we tailor programs. I mentioned Aula, the Arab women leaders in agriculture. So we tailor programs for, let's say, those group of women. We tailor programs for technical experts, in the field. So we have courses for them. So definitely there are different approaches that we use in order to achieve our goal. I mean, so this is, I think, and I believe, I mean, like transferring knowledge, transferring, I mean, doing science is great and is needed, okay, but transferring that knowledge to the field, this is, I think, and it is tricky. It is tricky because we have to be very careful on how to transfer that knowledge, and in order not to complicate things for them, but for them to see and believe. And we've done this in many areas in where we work. I mean, I just meant we did not talk much about the value chain. Okay, so introducing, let's say, a new crop to a new region. Okay, so you have now, let's say, quinoa in Tunisia or in Morocco. I mean, quinoa doesn't. I mean, they don't know quinoa. Okay, so just use it. in certain salads, maybe in some fancy restaurants, but when we are talking about farmers, so we have to teach them, how to use it, and really we've been successful in using this value chain. Last week we had a meeting, with our project partners in Africa, a program called Rezade from Togo, from Mozambique, and then the work that we've seen there, talking about really women processing deep products, in a very nice way. Really, I wish I have pictures just to show you, so how this capacity development, how those capacity development activities can really make a difference in people's life.
Well, maybe next time.
Next time.
Yeah, images are very powerful.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we run out of time. But I think, Dantosa, your story of, the women's knowledge not being tapped into perfectly illustrates why it's important when it comes to training and implementing the project. So, on that point, I'd like to say a big thank you, please, to Dr. Shabel Tarab, Dr. Murli Marakuni, Dr. Mahmoud Katala, Julia Mansa, and of course, Antoza Mukam. Thank you very much indeed. And just to let you know, the next event coming up here at the Restoration Pavilion will be at 11 o'clock, and that is all about the money. How on earth do you get hold and access to the money? So it's financing the future of land restoration, and we'll have some insights from the ecopreneurs. 11 a.m. folks.